Well, I got a lot of feedback from my last video from Monday, as well as that tweet I posted on Twitter. That's probably the most active my Twitter timeline has been in a long time. And yeah, this is one of the few videos where I start getting a lot of feedback from women. A lot of women gave me a lot of feedback on this video. So, there you go. I found some of the feedback very interesting. And if I cough in this video, you notice the last video I was doing a lot of coughing. I got my Hall's throat lozenges because I got some kind of summer dry cough going on. I don't know what's causing it. I don't have a cold or a flu, but something is messing with me. Yeah, but not only did I get a lot of feedback, well, not a lot, on my Twitter timeline from women, but my video I did Monday. It's funny, it's only a small percentage of videos where I get quite a bit of feedback from women. I think there's only been 2 other videos I've done this year, in the year 2019, that provoked a lot of feedback from women. I think the last video I did that provoked a lot of feedback from women was, one was the video I did about older men dating younger women. I got quite a bit of feedback from both publicly and privately from women. And the video called, that's now a Patreon exclusive video, Most Men Cannot Handle the True Sexual Nature of Women. Actually, most of the women who listen to that video, they agree with that. Although I had some women, they said, well, what about us women who can't handle the true sexual nature of men? I'm like, stay on topic. Women crack me up, generally speaking. A lot of women do that. If you do a video about women's propensity to engage in adulterous behavior, they'll say, well, what about men's propensity to indulge in adulterous behavior? And I'm like, I wasn't talking about men's adultery. I'll talk about that in another video. This video was about women's leanings towards adulterous behavior. Well, I think you should talk about men too. Bless their hearts. Women always want anything you talk about them, they want you to talk about men in the same regard. But yeah, a lot of women gave me some feedback on my video from 2 days ago. They said, Alan, no wonder you ain't married. You probably ain't gonna never get married because you just made it publicly known that you only really like spending time with women for sexual purposes, that you don't enjoy women's company just as human beings. My goodness, what is wrong with you? Dang, something must be wrong with you. You so shallow. You so superficial. You got a 1-track mind. No, actually, I got a 2-track mind. Fucking and earning a living. Fucking and earning a living. So I got at least 2 tracks in my mind. But no, but I mean, that ain't the first time I've admitted that publicly. Shit, if anybody was following me in my Blog Talk Radio days, I used to admit that all the time on Blog Talk Radio, that I really don't enjoy spending time with women in a non-physical, non-sexual manner. Now, on the male end, I had at least a couple men write me and say, hey, Alan, I need to ask you this question. You said you don't even really like spending time with men, but I know you do one-on-one, face-to-face coaching sessions. So are you saying that you get irritated when you're in the company of your male clients when you do like your one-on-one, face-to-face coaching sessions? No, never said that. I didn't say I don't like the company of men, period. So let me just clarify that. I never said I don't like the company of men, just period. I said I don't like people around me on a daily, keyword, daily daily basis for an extended period of time. Now, if you're talking about 1 day here, 1 day there, 2 days here, 2 days there, I don't have a problem with that. I've can name quite a few times I've spent time with people, particularly men, my male friends. Like when I do, the longest I would spend with a client when I do my one-on-one would be my 14-hour session, which is split over 3 days. I do 4 hours one day, 7 hours the second day, and 3 hours the third day. That's my 14-hour one-on-one face-to-face coaching session. Oh, speaking of that, I'm going to be, next month, let me give my Patreon subscribers more so than my non-Patreon subscribers an early warning. July, I'm probably not going to be putting as much content up as I have the last roughly 6 weeks because I already know I'm going to be out of town at least 3 times in July. A lot of it working with clients and then other things, hooking up with friends and family. So July, I mean, I'll be uploading content in general, but it won't be like on a day-to-day or every other day type basis in the month of July. So early warning on that. But yeah, man, I mean, when I do my one-on-one face-to-face, my 14-hour session, that second day, I spend as many as 7 hours with guys, and I've never had a problem with that. Now, the main time I get irritated being around people for roughly 5 hours or more in a day is if it's on a daily basis, or at least 6 days a week, if not 7 days a week. That's when I get irritated. If I'm around somebody on a daily basis for an extended number of hours. Yeah, and that's probably, and I said that's number one on the female, and that's one of the reasons why I've probably never been married. Because, yeah, I don't know if I can handle being around a woman like 7 days a week, man, every day. I mean, obviously for fucking. Like, to tell some of my personal business, like, I remember my college sweetheart, for example, which is one of my longest relationships. Me and my college sweetheart, we used to fuck every day that she wasn't on her period. Literally, every day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. We used to fuck literally every single day that she wasn't on her period. The only days we didn't fuck was when she was on her period. But when she went on her period, we fucked every day, most of the time, 2 to 3 times a day. And a lot of my other relationships have been the same way, man. Yeah, I know some guys who have told me, who are married, they told me they only had sex with their wives like an average of 3 to 5 times a month. Some even, I've talked to a handful of guys even less than that. Dude, see, I couldn't be in a marriage like that, man. I couldn't be in a marriage with a woman where we're only fucking like an average of like once or twice a week. I could do a fuck buddy relationship like that. Friends with benefits relationship like that. But a marriage or a serious boyfriend-girlfriend relationship where I'm only fucking like once or twice a week? Oh, fuck no. I'm spending 5 days with you a week in a non-physical, non-sexual manner and only 2 days a week with you in a physical and sexual manner? Oh, fuck no. That would never work for me. That would never work for me. Ever. Nah, man. That would never work for me, man. And see, some women will trick you into that situation. I ain't going to expand on that right now, but if you read my book, The Beta Male Revolution, some women do what's called a bait and switch. A bait and switch. Real quick, the gist of a bait and switch is like when a woman, say you dating a woman, while you dating a woman, or even while you're engaged to a woman, she'll fuck you 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and then once y'all get married, she pulls back on you. And next thing you know, you're only fucking like once a week. That's a bait and switch. See, that's why marriage sometimes can be risky, man. Because when you're dealing with women who are willing to pull a bait and switch on your ass, yeah, man, I would get divorced immediately. If I was married and a woman pulled back like that, dude, the next day I would be in court filing for divorce. And that's real talk. I can't be with no woman, man, if we ain't fucking on a regular basis, man. At minimum, for me, the minimum would have to be 4 days a week, man. If we ain't fucking at least 4 days a week, not including times when she might be pregnant or something, but nah, I ain't, no. Now that makes me think of the late, great comedian Patrice O'Neal. Patrice O'Neal said something interesting, and this kind of applies to my brother. I think one of the reasons why my brother and his wife marriage works so well. Patrice O'Neal said, he made this comment in one of his comedy acts. He said, the thing with men is us men, we don't really like to be lonely, but we like to be left alone. And he went on to say that, he said, when I come home to my house, I don't want to be in the house by myself. He said, I want to know that there's a woman somewhere in my house that I have access to. But he said, that said though, I want her to be in a different room than me. He said, I don't want her like all up under me. He said, I want her to be like in her bedroom or another room in the house doing something. And I'm in a totally different room, like watching TV or doing whatever. So he said, I want to know that there's a woman in the house, but while she's in the house with me, other than when we fucking, I want her to leave me the fuck alone. He said, other than when we fucking, I pretty much want her to leave me the fuck alone. Like, I know a guy in LA, in Los Angeles. He has a setup, a nice setup where he has his main house, and then he has like a separate, like almost, I ain't gonna call it a miniature house. It's almost like a garage that has been turned into another house. And he calls that his man cave. And so he spends a lot of time in his man cave, in his like secondary house. Again, it looks it basically looks like a garage, but it's not really a garage because he parks his cars outside. But his garage, what looks like a garage, is really like a second house. And he said that's where he spends most of his time, particularly like when he don't want to be bothered with his wife, and she stays in the main house with the kids. And but yeah, like my brother, man, most of the time I go visit my brother at his townhouse. 90% of the time, his wife is usually upstairs watching TV or doing something, and my brother is downstairs watching TV or doing something. So they're rarely in the same room together for an extended period of time. And my brother has indicated to me that's one of the things that makes their marriage work. But anyway, yeah, a lot of women were like, Alan, you're never going to get married with that attitude. Nah, man. I am who I am. Well, see, one reason, as most of y'all know, if y'all own my original Mode 1 book or even my updated versions of Mode 1, one reason why I don't like to be around people for too long in a day is because I hate trivial, inconsequential small talk, fluff talk, chit chat. I can't stand that. And that applies to both men and women. I do not like small talk. That was like probably one of my top 3 motivations for actually becoming Mode 1. Well, again, a lot of people think I started being Mode 1 for the sole and specific purpose of getting laid more. No. There was a number of reasons, but one of the reasons why I started being Mode 1, I hate small talk. Like some people are good at that. Like I've seen on Amazon, people have written books about how to engage in lengthy small talk. I hate small talk. I hate trivial, inconsequential small talk. That irritates like the fuck out of me, man. And again, that applies to both men and women, man. I do not like engaging in fluff talk with people, man. That's one reason why sometimes I avoid going to certain social events and parties, man, because I know it's going to entail a high degree of small talk, fluff talk, and chit chat. And that just irritates me to the highest degree, man. I like meaningful conversation. With women, I like conversations primarily that center around fucking, or if not fucking, the conversation got to center around something like improving my career, my finances, health and fitness, or quality movies. I'm a movie buff, so I do like talking about movies sometimes with women. But other than those 3 things, if it ain't something to do with fucking, man, I don't want to talk about it. Same with men. There's only certain things I like talking about with men. No one time I'm probably the most enthusiastic talking to men is when I'm doing what I do on video. Is when I'm talking about knowledge, wisdom, insight, and advice that's related to the contents of my books. And that's when that's why I'm so enthused about working with my clients, Because when I work with my clients, I tend to be very enthusiastic about sharing my knowledge, wisdom, insight, and advice with them. But like if I was around a client and we were just engaging in trivial small talk about just general bullshit, see, I would lose interest in that. I don't like small talk at all. I have like an extremely low tolerance for trivial bullshit, small talk, fluff talk, and chit chat. Can't stand it. Okay, moving on. Now remember, I hate to go back to this issue, but I'm going to go back to at least briefly. The whole plagiarism issue, copycat, people infringing on my intellectual property. And a lot of you, my followers, at least some of y'all said to me, Alan, quit talking about it and do something. At minimum, if you feel like somebody's really offending you in that regard, submit a complaint to YouTube and have their videos taken down. And at maximum, if you feel like it really warrants more action, take them to court. But, you know, don't give all these warnings and threats and just keep talking about it. Be about it. So I've taken heed to that advice. Do you know in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 videos taken down off of YouTube. One just 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah, in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 videos taken down of people infringing on my intellectual property. Yeah. So I would say, I don't know the exact number, but if I got to give a rough estimate, over the last 5 years, I've had about, I want to estimate about 54 or 55 videos taken down. Yep. In the last 5 years on YouTube, I've had at least 54 or 55 videos taken down. Matter of fact, of all my requests to have a video taken down, there's only been 3 times when I've had it denied. Yeah, all but 3 times. There's 3 times I had my request to have a video taken down that was denied. 2 of those 3 instances was somebody was using my head. They used my head in some kind of lighthearted video where they were either making fun of me or they were making fun of dating coaches and PUAs in general, and they used my head, and I didn't like it, and I asked for it to be taken down. But it turns out, man, I didn't know this. People can actually use your face if they're not doing one of these 2 things. If they're not spewing hate about you. People can't use your face if they're spewing nothing but hate about you. If they're spewing nothing but hate about you, you can get it taken down. Or if they're using your likeness or image to sell something, you can have their video taken down. But if somebody's just making basically lighthearted fun about you, and they're using, say, your face in their thumbnail or somewhere in their video, yeah, YouTube actually won't take that down. They consider that like a parody or satire. Like Saturday Night Live is full of what's known as satire type humor or parody humor. And yeah, YouTube actually allows that. So that was 2 of the 3 times when I asked to have a video taken down and they wouldn't take it down. Yeah, somebody was using my head. Like I remember one video, some guy was making fun of pretty much a bunch of different dating coaches and PUAs, and he used a bunch of their faces on these like cartoon bodies. And he had my face on this cartoon body. And I didn't like the shit. So I asked for it to be taken down, but they said, no, that couldn't be taken down because it was considered a lighthearted parody. But yeah, man, people are still trying to argue with me about, Alan, man, you trying to act like you was the very first person on earth to use the no free attention philosophy, because that was the last video I had taken down. Another young brother, I ain't gonna say his name, but he had basically a no free attention type video, and I had that shit taken down. Now, I've had a couple people still try to argue with me like, Alan, you act like you were the first person to use that. I was the first person to fucking use that. And I ain't gonna backtrack on that. I am the first person to use no free attention. Put my name, put no free attention in Google and see what the first hit comes up. I always say Google is your best resource when you want to see if someone has ownership over a particular word, term, phrase, concept, philosophy, slogan. All you got to do, if you want to test it, put it in Google. If you put something in Google and a wide variety of hits come up that are not particularly associated with any one person, then that means it's a universal idea. It's a universal term. It's a universal concept. It's a universal philosophy. But if you put a certain word, term, phrase, slogan, and philosophy, concept in Google, and most of the hits are associated with one person, that means everybody associates that term, phrase, slogan with that person. If you put no free attention in Google, I'm the first hit that comes up. I've been using no free attention since 1988. Summer of 1988 was when I first started using the no free attention philosophy. And I would say since the days of the internet, I started using it mainly when I started posting on AskMan.com back in late 2002. I used to use no free attention. Nobody else was talking about no free attention. Now, what a couple people are confusing, I've had at least two people in the last week or two say, Alan, before I even heard of you, I heard a lot of PUAs talking about no validation. Don't give women validation, no validation. So I would argue with you that you were the first one to come up with no validation. That's different. That's different. A lot of people are confusing and conflating those two. They're kind of similar, but they're different. No validation is different than no free attention. No validation is different from no free attention. What's the difference? No validation, and I will say I wasn't the first one to use that term. I rarely use the term validation. I've only used that term like sparingly. But my similar term for no validation is when I tell men never express empty compliments. Empty compliments. That's the closest thing I have to the no validation concept, is when I tell men never to express empty compliment. What's an empty compliment? If you're going to work and you're on a train, a commuter train, and you just walk up to a woman and say, oh my God, you got one of the most beautiful smiles I've ever seen in my life. And she says, oh my God, thank you for that compliment. And then she just goes back to listening to her music and you just walk away. That's an empty compliment. That's an empty compliment. It didn't lead to anything. It didn't lead to you connecting with her. That's an empty compliment. See, I like to give compliments that are tied into an action. Like, for example, man, you got some nice lips. I can't wait until you and I hook up and we start kissing and I get to feel those lips against my lips. See, I tied in a compliment with a desired action. Or, damn, you got a nice ass. I can't wait to fuck you doggy style so I can squeeze and slap on that nice ass you got. Compliment tied in with a desired action. I'm all about tying in a compliment with a desired action. I don't believe in just going up to a woman and saying, God, you got some of the most beautiful hair I've ever seen. She says, oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. And then she just walks away. That's an empty compliment. Anyway, when you give women empty compliments like that, that's what basically means to validate a woman. When you're validating a woman, you're saying something that gives a boost to their ego and their self-esteem. You're saying something that gives a boost to their ego or self-esteem. That's what it means to validate a woman. So the concept of no validation is different than no free attention. Even though I do talk about that in my book, The Possibility of Sex. I want to say chapter 1. I can't forget my own chapters. Either chapter 1 or chapter 2. I think it's chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the chapter in Possibility of Sex where I essentially talk about the concept of no validation, even though I don't think I use that word validation. But I basically say you don't want to be what I say in my book is that you don't want to be a woman's personal ego booster. You don't want to be a woman's personal ego booster or self-esteem booster. So that more so falls in line with the no validation concept. No free attention is based on the premise that you should never be giving women full and indefinite access to your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship unless that woman is doing one of two things. Unless that woman, A, is satisfying your sexual needs and urges, y'all engaging in sex on a regular basis, semi-regular basis, or at bare minimum, an occasional basis. Or B, if y'all not having sex, at minimum, she's doing something to help you improve your career, improve your finances, or some other important aspect of your life. She's doing something to help you improve your career, something to improve your finances, or some other major aspect of your life. That's the only two times you should be giving women access to your non-sexual attention and companionship. Is if she's rewarding you with her sexual companionship, or again, if not her sexual companionship, she's actively doing something that's helping you improve the overall quality of your life. But other than those two things, you should never be giving a woman full and indefinite access to your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. And yes, Alan Roger Currie was the first one to come up with that concept of no free attention and that slogan, that phrase. And that's why I've had so many videos taken down on YouTube, and YouTube is backing me up on it. The fact that YouTube is willing to take down a video is their way of saying, YouTube's way of saying they co-sign with my assertion that I am the one who has ownership over that phrase. Because if they felt like it was just a universal term, just a general universal term, they wouldn't take the video down. I guarantee you they wouldn't. If they felt like that was just kind of just a general universal term, YouTube would write me a note saying, no, we can't take that video down because that's pretty much a universal, that's universal terminology. That's general terminology. You know, we can't give you ownership over that. That's a general terminology. So the fact that YouTube has taken down just about every video that I've requested I've taken down is YouTube's way of saying, Alan, we co-sign with you. Yeah, man. Again, in the early 2000s, nobody was using that in the manosphere other than me. Like when I was on AskMan.com, nobody was using no free attention. I was the only one on AskMan.com that used to talk about that. When no other PUAs and dating coaches talking about no free attention. All this shit was about just getting laid. Getting laid. And again, the closest thing that came to it was the no validation. I did hear a lot of PUAs used to say you shouldn't validate women. Shouldn't. But again, that's more about complimenting women. That's more about complimenting women. Like Mystery Method had a concept called negging. Negging. That was his way of saying negging women was the antithesis of complimenting them or validating them. Like he would say, like, express lighthearted criticisms and insults to women. He called that negging. Speaking of negging, see, he has ownership over that. Like Mystery Method was the first person I ever heard talk about negging. Later on, I heard a bunch of PUAs mention the term negging, but Mystery Method originated that term, negging. So that's clarification number one. There's a difference between the no free attention concept versus the no validation concept. Those two are not the same thing. Last thing I'm going to talk about on the free portion is, and this speaking of my book, The Possibility of Sex. I had a client I was doing a consultation with, and he was asking me, where should he take a woman on a first date? Like what type of restaurant? And I think he asked me how much money, what's the most amount of money he should spend? And I said, so you looking at this woman as like a future wife or a minimum long-term girlfriend? He basically was like, no, I'm just trying to fuck her. Insert dog face here. See, this is what I don't understand. And I'm going to have to bring up at least the name of one other dating coach when I talk about this issue. And that, of course, would be Alpha Male Strategies. Here's what I don't get. And I did a video last year about this, so this won't be my first time talking about this. Alpha Male, speaking of people being copycats and shit, everybody knows by now, Alpha Male Strategies be biting off a lot of my content from The Possibility of Sex. Now, at least 1/4 of the time, from what I've heard, he has given me credit for it, which I appreciate. So I ain't gonna say he's never given me credit, based on people who follow both me and him, a lot of those guys have said, yeah, Alan, more so last year than this year, they said, Alan, I've heard Alpha Male Strategy actually encourage his listeners and followers to purchase The Possibility of Sex in the Beta Male Revolution. So he has given you credit for it. So in those instances where he has, I'll openly say I appreciate that. But he has bitten off a lot of my content from The Possibility of Sex, but yet he turns around and encourages men to go on as many as 3 dates with a woman in an attempt to have casual sex with her. Why? 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 That's the whole reason why I wrote the book, The Possibility of Sex. Why are you spending money on women for the possibility of fucking them? Why? Why are you spending money on women for the possibility of fucking them? That's my simple question. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of tricking, what's known as tricking, mainly because of the legal issues that surround it. But I'll say this, man. If you're going to spend money on women for casual sex, if you're going to spend money on women for short-term, non-monogamous casual sex, you might as well resort to tricking. I mean, being real, and I'm serious, you might as well resort to tricking. Because at least then you're paying money for guaranteed pussy. You're paying money for guaranteed pussy or a guaranteed blowjob. When you take a woman out on 3 dates, or even 2 dates, or even in many cases 1 date, you're gambling. Again, why you think on the cover of my book, The Possibility of Sex, I got a man about to pull a lever on a slot machine? And I explained this a few videos ago. Because anytime you take women on dates and your objective is casual sex, what you're doing is you're gambling. You're throwing dice. You're gambling. You're gambling with your time and you're gambling with your money. I don't believe in spending money on a woman, man, for the possibility of fucking her. No, that's stupid. I'll tell you straight up, that's stupid. And it's a contradiction. Again, this is why I've picked on Alpha Male Strategies as well as some other people. I've always said, man, see, people don't realize my 3 books are a trilogy. They're not just individual books. They're kind of like a trilogy. Like Mo 1, Ooh Say It Again, and The Possibility of Sex. That's like a trilogy, like the Star Wars trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Batman Dark Knight trilogy. That's like a trilogy. In other words, that's like one long book divided up into 3 parts. That's like one long book divided. Matter of fact, if you go to audible.com, you'll see that's one of the criticisms of my audiobooks. Like sometimes I'll go and read the people who've criticized my audiobooks, particularly Ooh Say It Again, Possibility of Sex. And a lot of people who don't like those 2 audiobooks, they'll say, I thought this was a standalone book. I thought this was a standalone book. But when you read it or listen to this audiobook, you realize this is part, like a continuation of his other audiobooks. And it is. Yeah, like Ooh Say It Again is not really a standalone audiobook. Neither is The Possibility of Sex. It's not really a standalone audiobook. Those audiobooks should be listened to in conjunction with the other 2 audiobooks. Mo 1, Ooh Say It Again, and The Possibility of Sex should all be listened to together. The closest out of those 3 that comes to being a standalone audiobook would be Mo 1. And the Beta Male Revolution, I consider that kind of a prequel, to use a movie term, a prequel. Beta Male Revolution is kind of the prequel to the trilogy. That's the prequel to the trilogy. And see, speaking of the Beta Male Revolution, what's the number one thing I point out in the Beta Male Revolution related to this topic, which I'm going to get more in detail in my Patreon portion. Here's what I'm talking about, Patreon portion, man. There's really no reason to take women out on dates in the 21st century. There's really no reason to take women out on dates. I would say particularly if your interest is casual sex. But I would say really in general. There's really no, because see, y'all are trying to take dating rituals from the 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s and put them into the 21st century. And as I explained in the Beta Male Revolution, life don't work that way. We're in a totally new and different era. And I'm going to go into more detail about that in my Patreon exclusive portion.